Bam.
My name is Derrick McManus, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
This is what we do. I'm on the road. Derrick was on the road for about a month. We met out in England at this thing called SpyQ. More to follow on SpyQ from the both of us, but great to have you on the show. You actually were on Dr. Hal's show as well, and you and Dr. Hal vibed in a great way. So I appreciate you joining me on my show.
He's an awesome man. He is an awesome man. I'm certainly looking forward to today, though. The conversations we had when we were over at SpyQ just lead me to think this is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks, man. I feel the same way. Why is that? Why do we feel that way?
Just because we're on the same thought pattern, level of thought processing. We think deeply about what we do and how we do it rather than just on the surface. And I love you asking deeper questions about why. Why do you think that? And what's the reason behind that? And where did that come from? Love it.
Yeah. We haven't known each other very long, but we took a mini road trip together. I happened to be going towards London. You happened to be kind of going that way. And we had a little text thread, and we ended up having a 3-hour drive together. Again, like that's not a common thing. Like you're just going to get into some stranger's car. I mean, sure, we sat at the same conference table and all that, but we really didn't interact all that much. But you got to see me being me, and I got to see you being you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was real too. I made some mistakes, and things didn't go completely smoothly for you, but none of that rattled either of us, which is just impressive. It's just part of life.
Yeah. Is that born in our training? Is that who we are, do you think? I mean, so those who don't know, go look up Derrick. I'll put Derrick's website up here so you guys can go check it out. Derrick is a badass, so you will understand more about these questions. But how did we get built to this point?
Yeah, listen, that's a really good question. I've been asked that many, many times. Is it nature? Is it nurture? I think it's definitely a combination of both. I wasn't this confident as a child. I wasn't this confident in my 20s and 30s. It is something that I have learned over a period of time to become more comfortable with myself. And, I can actually identify the period down to within about a month as to where that change actually happened. And having said that, can't remember the year now. It was probably 1990. Yeah, probably around about 1991. And I just got into what we call Police Star Group, Special Task and Rescue Group. And that's high risk arrest. It's hostage siege, counter-terrorism, cliff rescue, cave rescue, VIP security. So I just got into this really intense environment, and I wasn't getting along with the people in that environment. Some of them were absolutely anti-Derrick. And I was doing everything I could to try and get along with them, to try and make myself popular with them. I was dressing the same way. I was doing my hair the same way. I got shoelaces. I remember the shoelaces specifically. I was trying to do everything to be liked, and nothing I was doing was changing their attitude. And the moment for me that changed was I actually turned around and said, stuff you. I don't care what you think of me anymore. I love what I'm doing. I've got some really good friends in this section. I don't have to be liked by everybody. And your comments are not going to affect me anymore. And I believe it was that day they started changing their opinion about me. And it was when I didn't care about those people who didn't matter to me. I had my good friends. Their opinions mattered. Those other ones, I didn't care. And I think that was the significant changing day for me. Obviously, I built up those resources over a period of time beforehand, but I just remember that day so specifically.
Yeah, that's interesting. There are moments in our lives where we have this challenge, and you don't know it's life defining when you're just a kid or a knucklehead teenager, but it turns out like that moment was a turning point, and so I was playing a little pickup baseball game and at my elementary school, and I was just a kid, just a knucklehead kid, and like all little kids, I was awkward. I had glasses and all that kind of thing. And I was just getting the business from this one guy, and I'm like, I am not gonna take this anymore. Like, I've got to stand up for myself. And so I hit the ball, and he was playing second, and I came in and I knocked the shit out of him, in a legit way on a baseball field.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And then he came up and wanted to throw hands, and I was ready for it. I mean, like I did that with the intention of like us getting into a fight, and then the fight was over within a couple seconds because the other kids kind of came in. But that changed things not only for me internally, but the other people around were like, "Oh, if you mess with Pete, he does have a limit to what he will take, and apparently he's going to fight you." And so that makes you it put me. Look, I still had a ton of struggles, all the bullying and all that stuff, but it made me a little bit more dangerous I was less prey. I was more predator at that point. Yep. And, that was just one of those moments. I didn't know that would stick with me, though, for 50 plus years,
Yeah. And having said that, I don't care about those people who don't like me. We all want to be liked. I still want to be liked. And when I want to get along with someone and they don't like me, it's still challenging for me. But I'm able to turn it around quite quickly and go, do they matter in my life? Do I need them in my life? And if I do, then I will work out. I like playing with disc profiling and personality profiling. And you can work out how to get along with people if you really want to. But it really matters as to whether they are a person of value that you'll enjoy having in your life or not. You got to work that out first.
Yeah. I know for me, pre-deployment, everybody's got a lot of time to kill, so we stand around and people talk about stuff. And the chickens start clucking. What if I go here? What if I go to that place? What if this? What if that? I hope I go here. You're not in control of any of it. You just go with the orders to send you, and then you go deal with the mission, and you make the mission your own. But if you stand in that circle and you start clucking with the other chickens, you're feeding yourself something that you don't need. There's nothing happening there. You're killing time, but you can go kill time reading a book. You can go talk to someone else who's not in that mindset of trying to worry about what's next. When we're going to war, like, hey, that's already happening. We're already on this bus. It's already headed that way. We're not physically moving in this moment, but as soon as we do all this admin stuff, there we go. And then worry about what's there once you get there. But for right now, I don't need to.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the future.
Yeah, and that really comes back to that circle of control, circle of influence, circle of no control whatsoever. If you can't control it, then work out how you can manage it.
Right.
And managing it emotionally is always the hardest thing.
Especially when you don't have to do it anymore, or you come back and you have to de-gear. Like you guys go out to do this dangerous. By the way, everybody, Derrick was shot a mess of times and in an arrest thing. And so that kind of defines his life. Go look all that stuff on his website, which, by the way, is right below me. We're not going to get into all that because he talks about that all the time. But the things that helped you survive are the things that we're talking about. When you build that resilience to be like, I've been shot, here's how I'm going to deal with this. And, that resilience that comes into these things, how much is that? I guess I want to go back to this question. How much of that is Derrick, and how much of that is the Derrick that was created through all of the training and access with all these great people and tools?
Well, the training, and you would have gone through the same training as well. The training deals with the physical, and in the way I explain it, we have physical, mental, and emotional. We get trained physically. The mental, I believe, is the intellectual stuff, the policies, the procedures, the processes, the IA drills, and all those sorts of things. The emotional is the one that we don't get trained well in. When I got shot, it was 31 years ago now. And I remember our emotional training at that stage is, we're going to build you unbreakable. You won't feel emotions. You won't let those things affect you. You will be so strong. You'll be able to push. So they did not believe that we had emotions. I was very, very fortunate, and I don't know where it came from. I thank my parents without really knowing if it was them or not, but it's got to have been their influence. They trained me to realize, or I found some way to realize, that our emotions control every part of our being. And we can learn to manage our emotions, but we can't get rid of them. We can't ignore them. And if we do try to ignore them, that's when they become even bigger, and we start going into anxiety, depression, and then burnout.
how much can a leader impact that? So, again, I was kind of getting this earlier, but let me bring it in now. We come back from the mission. We come back from the deployment. We stop deploying altogether. And you and I have worked at such peak levels where you become hyper aware in a good way, but also now I don't need that skill as finely tuned, but my emotions I have not maintained because I've had to push past things. I've had to disassociate with horrible things. But now that all that work still has to be done. So can a leader guide someone towards that transition, or is this primarily personal work?
The leader, I think, is the primary driver of it. I'm sorry, my apologies. We're the primary driver of it, but for those people who don't have it, they've got to be able to be shown it by the leader if you don't have it. And we're talking about psychological safety in the workplace here. Okay,
right.
The leader can set that up by being the example, showing vulnerability, and allowing other people to do that. We've still got to show strength and resilience and durability and all those things as well. But being able to show that vulnerability of, do you know something? I'm actually having a bad day today. I'm not feeling it today. I need to take some time out. Because if the leader is willing to do that, that allows everybody below him or her to do that as well.
Yeah. And I laugh because, we have these things, right? And then that becomes, I have reached the maximum capacity for my emotions. I'm going to take a me day. Everybody will now at this time take a me day. Dismissed.
Yeah, that's right.
You're like, what? Because if it gets institutionalized, I would say it would be hard to extract the benefit of these things because, I make the same joke about establishing rapport. At this time, I will establish the rapport. Hello, my name is Pete. And you're reading off your card.
Yeah.
And so, like, how do you avoid the institutional sterilization of that critical? Today, I've been traveling a lot and working a lot, and I had to just take the morning off, right? Because I was so glad that I had scheduled us for this time of day because it's 2:00 here in California. But I needed that day. But if it was required and it was 6 months ago and I didn't need it, like it would drive me crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I talk about, and I don't know whether I talked about it at SpyQ, is I talk about two models of resilience. One is aspirational resilience, and this is the one we live in most of the time. And we should live in this one most of the time. Aspirational is chasing those dreams, chasing those big things, being on the road, doing what you love doing. But aspirational is where you are looking at going towards peak performance. And if you stay in aspirational and chasing peak, you will potentially go into burnout. All right. So once you start seeing the signs, and it's as soon as you start seeing the signs, you've got to go, do you know something? I need to flick over into what I call functional resilience, which is where we rest, relax, replenish, re-energize. And then once we've done that, either physically, intellectually, or emotionally, and we're back in that place where we go, I feel better now. Right, let's get back into it. But we've got to allow ourselves to do that. And I talk to executives and I say, if you have a really hard interaction with an employee, if you have a deal that goes really bad, if you've had a breakdown in the factory, whatever it might be, you are allowed to take 10 minutes and just go, do you know something? I've got to have a little bit of me time, just gather my thoughts again, process it. Okay, I've got it now. Let's go back into it and get in hard. And it may be 2 weeks, it may be whatever, but it's also, and I love this example, going from aspirational and pushing yourself at work and going into functional. This allows you to be with your family and go along to the school and listen to the music recitals with all that terrible music, and you go, oh my God, but you're there and you're present with your kids at the right time. When that's over, bang, let's get back into aspirational again.
Yeah. Easier said than done. How does one build what that recharge mode looks like? Because I've got a lot of special operations friends, and if they have trees on their lot, they seem to cut every tree down because they can't just sit back and relax. Or and they'll whiskey, and I'm like, because that's where we go for whatever reason, because it's a manly thing to do, but I don't know that it's as beneficial. It's actually detrimental ultimately. But have a little whiskey, but we're not talking about a little whiskey. We're talking about avoidance.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And I'm going to pick up on a statement you said there. It's the
Mm,
manly thing to do. We assume that, other guys are doing this, but the guys who are doing that hate it as much as we hate it as well. But we start getting into that environment where everybody's doing it, so I should be doing it. What we've got to be is really more human. Um, and the six, just quickly rattle off the 6 steps that I've got in functional resilience. Whenever I
mm,
start getting overwhelmed, when things get in too much, sleep and nutrition is the first one for me. I always check in on those. Make sure I'm connected to friends, meaningful connection, really, really important. Being able to talk to people is more valuable than having a whiskey. Having understanding of ourselves, empathy, right? Going, do you know something? It's normal. People have a hard time.
right.
People come back from war and those thoughts ruminate. This is normal. So have some understanding for ourselves. Get active. Don't recommend chopping down all those trees on the lot, but just get active, get out there, do something. It's not about elite performance. Sometimes it's just
Yeah.
about walking. Guilt-free indulgence, and that's going along to the kids' school, or going and taking time out and walking in the bush, or going and seeing a movie, going and having a good meal. But it's got to be guilt-free, because if
Yeah.
you're doing what you enjoy doing while also thinking, oh, I should be back over here, you're not getting the benefit. And the last one is just to step back, reframe it all after doing those first 5.
Mm.
Reframe it, get a different look at it, and then step back up and get back into pushing yourself again. It makes a
Yeah.
massive difference, and it's about being more human and allowing yourself to go, do you know something? I'm
Yeah.
allowed to feel these emotions. I'm allowed to feel bad, but I know that good is coming.
Yeah. I think what I want to say is guys like us, we tend to want to prove up, but we never believe that we've actually proved up. Like I can say Derek's
Yeah.
a badass and be like, oh, come on, but we
Yeah.
are. We're badasses. We've done incredible things. We've been shot at, all these kinds of things, hit in some cases and still survived. All of this stuff, but I'm just desperate to prove up all the time. Like, hey, I can't let these guys down. But I'm already above the standard, right? And so I'm shooting for this
Yeah.
unrealistic, unknowable, unachievable status that it's hard for me to say, I'm going to go sit and just focus. I have to purpose. My task is you will sit, you will enjoy, you will be present, And I sit there and I battle that battle instead of actually just doing the thing that I'm supposed to do, sit there and enjoy and be present.
And that's a normal process, Pete.
Mm,
If it's not something we've done in a long time, then we struggle to do it. But what I would say is just try and do it for 5 minutes and then allow yourself to get up and move again. Then
mhm.
come back and do it 5 minutes again, and then allow yourself to get up and just do it incrementally. Get to 5 minutes and then go to 10 minutes. And then after a few 10 minutes, you'll actually be going, do you know something? I quite enjoy this. Oh, I'm getting
Mm.
used to this. I can do this. And that is the functional resilience. Now, if we go into aspirational resilience and we stay there, we're going to go into burnout. If we go to functional and rest, relax, replenish for too long, we'll go into
Mm.
rust out because we're
Yeah.
not actually achieving anything. But we've got to be here for a certain period of time and then get back into doing stuff.
Yeah. Do you take into account, like, I'm an extrovert, but I have my introverted side. But when I recharge, I'm not sure if I recharge better by just being quiet and alone, or if I can just go out and be amongst people and still come back refreshed. Even though I'm an extrovert, I think I recharge better on the introverted side.
Yeah, absolutely. There are many people in your position. You're an extrovert. You're out there. You're doing podcasts. You're getting on stage. You're doing all this stuff, helping people.
Yeah.
But quietly inside, you just want to take some time out and rest by myself. Um, I'm an extrovert with an introvert side as well. Sometimes I love going out on a bike ride on my own for 3 hours and just pushing myself hard. But I also get fired up by being around people. Like I do presentations and I work with school kids and I work with all sorts of people. I can do 3 presentations in a day, so 3 half-day workshops, to lots of school kids during the day, and then the executives and everybody, all the teachers of a night time. And at the end of that, people go, "Oh my God, you're exhausted. You've got to be." No, I've enjoyed it so much. Let's get out and party.
Yeah.
I really do. But there are times where I just go, do you know something? need to get out in the garden. I want to go and do my my vegetable patch and tend my flowers and all those things. We've got both
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah. Man, the last thing I want to do is yard work and clean. I know some people find that therapeutic. I hate it. I do it because, you know, I want to be a good partner and everything, but man, I don't find satisfaction in that stuff. And so I've had to find the things that I do find satisfaction in, and then compel myself to go do them in a way that's healthy, right? Like, so when we talk about these things, these modalities, these approaches, you still have to build in the elegance within those things. So you're like, hey, I noticed there's a little hint of burnout. Like right now, I'm probably a little burned out because I've been on the road. And so my emails are starting to build up. And that's a sign, the emails are building up. I have not been as attentive to those things. Now I need to make sure I rest, right? And so I've learned to shut down, slow down. And those emails will wait 8 more hours. They're fine. But right now, I'm going to take care of Pete, get me recharged again.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going to pick up on something you said before. I don't like yard work, you know, and I need to do it, but I don't like my yard work.
Yeah.
I think we've got to feel comfortable at chasing what we enjoy. Because I have a lot of people come to me and go, my God, I am not as courageous as you are. I couldn't do that thing. And the example I like to give is my accountant. My accountant is a beautiful lady. She's gentle. She's kind. She wouldn't want to step on an ant. She could never be a sniper. She could never go and do the work that we do. But let me tell you, I could never be an accountant. That would send me round a twist. All right. I know I've got to do that work. You know, there's a certain amount I've got to do, but I get specialists to do those things. So we've got to be comfortable with what we do and be courageous. In fact, I was talking to surf lifesavers over the weekend, and the point that I made to them is they are doing a job in a different way to what I was doing my job, and they've just got to be passionate about what they do. And if they get to the point where they don't enjoy surf lifesaving anymore, go and find your other passion. It's not wrong to change your mind and go and do something else.
Yeah. I'm often, when I talk about podcasting with folks, you know, I'll tell them like, don't put too much on where you're going to end up, because this is hard enough just to do today, tomorrow, 5 days from now. It's super hard to do. And so if you decide where you're going before you start, you may not be able to connect those two. The tactical and the strategic have to kind of agree. And so if your day-to-day tactics don't feed your strategic outcome, it's okay to unstake that strategic outcome and move it over here. It's also okay to knock the whole thing over and be like, it turns out I'm not a podcaster this time. You can always come back to it. Podcasting is not going anywhere. But we struggle with that. We always jump ahead, especially like we're trying to build this Spike U thing up. And it's easy to get 15 years into the future. And I'm like, but today, tomorrow, what are the things that I need to do so it's achievable? Because this vision out in front, I know we'll get somewhere, but I got to figure out how to do today, tomorrow, the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. The Spike U thing, I can see that being absolutely huge. It has so much potential and so much applicability to such a broad audience. But my focus is on making sure I get my first event to be a good event. If I can get the first event to be good, then I can start looking at building it further. I've got the vision, but I want to take those incremental steps again. It's like taking that 5 minutes first, then getting up and doing something. Let's get this first event up and going and successful, and then start growing.
When we were in England, we did a fireside chat, and a lot of the questions were focused on fear and how do you go and expose yourself to these enemies? Derrick, you were shot a whole bunch of times. How did you go back to that job? I'm laughing as I'm saying it, because if you said I'm never going to go in an environment where I'm going to get shot again, you would be the norm. But instead, you're such a hard ass, you know, you went back out. So all of these questions on fear, but again, we're above this pro level where, like, yeah, you're not supposed to understand where we're at, because you're never going to be in this world, thankfully, right? But we do have this. We believe that we can be anything, but at some point, we have chosen a path that will take away most everything, and then we turn into this person that we become. Now, we might angle and everything else, but you know, at some point, you no longer can become a black belt in karate. Like, no matter what you do, you might try, you might be the guy at 80 years old, but most everybody, like, you're going to be the single person who does those kind of things. So when we're talking about fear, I don't know, I guess let's talk about you and I personal experience. How did you deal with the fear? You know your job is dangerous. It's supposed to be, but who else? But who else but me? Of course, me, right? But how do you still deal with that? How do you house it and manage it?
I go back to my accountant example again. She could never
Hmm.
step up into this role, not a chance.
Right.
For me, it's something that I enjoy. Okay, there is a passion to get out there. Oh, let me just jump back 5 years prior to me being shot. I actually had a conversation with my wife, and I said, in going into this job, I may be shot and injured, I may be shot and killed. If I die, what would you tell my children about this person who knew I was taking a job where I could die and I still did it? So we
Right.
actually had this conversation around that mindset. And one of the things I said is that somebody needs to do this job. I feel that I have the skills. I feel that I could build up the ability to be able to do this job and enjoy myself in the process. Yes, I know it's dangerous. Yes, I've got to be absolutely aware of that the whole time. But it's the same as our military forces, whether it be Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Delta Force, whatever it is. We need people to step into those roles. And it's all about your risk tolerance.
Mm.
Okay. If you have the tolerance to manage those risks, then it's good to step into it. I don't have the risk tolerance for accountancy because that would not be something I enjoy. So it's okay. It's also okay for people to go, do you know something? I want to go into special forces. I want to go into the military. And I get in there for a month and go, do you know something? This is not for me. I'm going to
Not for
go
me.
out again and change. These are the people that stay in, even though they don't like it, just because other people might judge them. They're the people who have the greatest challenges in life. But we need great accountants. We need great actors. We need great restaurant owners. We need people to follow their passion. And when, you know, restaurant owners, they take on that risk of, my God, I'm going to start up a restaurant. I've got this vision of it being great. How many restaurants are open for 6 months, 12 months, fall over? So
Yeah.
their risk tolerance for what they're doing is greater than my risk tolerance. I wouldn't start up a restaurant. I don't know how to. And
Yeah.
the financial risk would be huge. So follow, being able to overcome fear
Mm.
for me is more around doing what you know you are going to enjoy and allowing yourself to step back at that time where you go, this is a step too far.
And when you try to communicate this to the folks that you are talking to when you're on stage or doing a workshop, again, it's easy to like turn you into an icon of hard assery and badassness, but you still have to be able to reach over and bring them towards where they need to be, right?
Yeah.
So how do you get them to accept that? Like, you're an accountant, but I
I
couldn't do that. I'd be terrified to try to be an accountant.
I feel very sorry for my clients if I was their accountant. So one of the comments I used to get in the very early days of me being on stage was, you get so highly trained. I don't think I could ever step up and be as good as what you are because I don't have that training.
Mm.
And so the context that I try to put it into is I prepared myself for what I could realistically expect to encounter as a result of the choices I made and the circumstances I expected I could find myself getting into. So what are the choices you've made and how can you better prepare for them? And the example I like to give, saying that you are well prepared for what you can realistically expect, is I get people to picture the first day they started driving a car. Right?
Hmm.
If you remember the first day, or if you've ever taught someone how to drive a car, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to kill someone. You are overthinking. You're thinking 10 times about every move you do. When you drive a car now, what do? You're not even thinking about the road. You're talking to the people
Right.
next door, you're singing to the tunes, you're bopping, you're thinking about it. But if something happens in front of you, bang, you can respond to it absolutely perfectly without thinking. You are well prepared for that challenge.
Yeah.
Now let's start thinking about the next challenges as a result of your choices and your circumstances, and let's better prepare for them. Um, if and the other example with driving is, we all get to this stage where we're really, really relaxed, But when we take on the next challenge, we slide back along a continuum of fragile, resilient, durable, from absolutely reliable, I can drive this car, but if we start driving race cars, we slide back along that continuum from absolutely reliable back to a little bit resilient, maybe fragile, because there's a whole new dynamic here that we've got to prepare ourselves for, right? And so we've got to understand that every time we take on a new challenge, there's new things to encounter, and we're not going to be as good as what we were before. But if we're passionate about what we're doing, we'll go race car driving. I love this. I want to be good at it. Oh my God. Stuffed up the first time, stuffed up the second time. I got better on the third time. That gives us a little sense of optimism, and okay, let's keep on going. So it's about putting it all into context for what our audience, or how our audience can relate it to their lives.
When you're talking to someone who's a leader and you're trying to transfer that skill to somebody, reaching back and grabbing their people, leadership, we thought to talk about it in the military and policing world. We understand that you have to go to leadership courses and actually study this stuff. It's not so apparent on the corporate side. You're just like, no, you're a leader now. I'm like, well, where's my leadership handbook, right? And then you're talking about advanced things, trying to get people to go towards a better version of themselves, and getting them to invest in not only themselves, but in the well-being of the company and all these other things. How do you transfer that skill to the leaders that you work with?
So most of the leadership programs that I run, and I've been president of Professional Speakers Association here in South Australia for a few years in the past. And so we're having discussions about this sort of thing all the time. How do you transfer it? We come in and we want to take leaders from here to up here and make them absolutely brilliant. But what I generally find is when we're talking to leaders, the level of knowledge is sometimes down here, right? And we've got to accept that. What I find in industry is somebody becomes really good at being a carpenter, at being a welder, at being the greatest financial broker that in that business, absolutely brilliant. You are so great. I'm now going to put you into leadership. They're really good on the tools, but they have no skill in leadership at all. So their knowledge of how to manage people, really great with the tools, but managing people is a very different thing. And a lot of people become very fragile in that area. They're scared to make mistakes. They know that if they do the wrong thing, it's going to break. And so they become very, not introverted, what's the word? Introspective, right? And they start analyzing themselves rather than just relaxing and going, do you know something? New challenge. I've taken on a new challenge. I don't have all those skills. I've come back here. There are new things I need to learn. Help me to learn them. And throwing your hand in the air and going, I need some help with this new role. People see your potential, but then we start getting introspective and going, oh my God, if I stuff up, they're going to take away all this. They're going to think less of me, rather than just being comfortable and going, do you know something? This is new, but I want to do it. So help me to learn it. And I talk about 5 drivers for success. The 5th driver is being prepared to throw your hand in the air and ask for support. When you can do that, you will accelerate your performance.
Yeah, I totally agree. This will sound ridiculous, but I'm probably starting a movie studio of some sort or another. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's come out of the blue. Where'd that come from?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's we didn't talk about this stuff, but I'm because of my ridiculous show and all the people I meet, I've become someone who can produce things, And here's the crazier thing, Derrick, is my friends who are producers, they're like, stop saying you're sort of a producer, start saying you are a producer. And I'm like, but I've not made anything. They're like, there are a lot of producers that do a lot of things. You build teams, you lead things. And I'm like, okay, I'll say I'm a producer. So I'm a producer. And but here's what I know. I don't know how to build a film studio. I don't even know what kind of film studio we're going to build, but I do know that I can get to the people that know what we should build and can help me figure it out. And I can guide that process. So I don't have to have that knowledge. I'll amass it. But when I need it, I'm going to go to the person that I know or the person that they know to find out about soundstage construction, right? I'm going to have to master construction. That's terrifying. The uncertainty is vast. I'm on a
Yeah,
tightrope that I can't even see the other end of the tightrope. I just assume it's connected to something,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I know if I inch along and I follow the principles that we developed and these kinds of things, that ultimately either it'll happen or it won't. And I'll work on it until it's not something that is worth working on anymore. Not that I'm going to quit, but things have a life, and so hopefully it all comes together. But if it doesn't, well, it wouldn't be the first venture to fail. And so, am I going to stuff it up? I don't
Yeah.
know, but I am going to go forward, and I have. It's daunting and it is scary, but it's not unmanageable scary.
No, absolutely not. And I love the fact that you're really open about the fact that I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I know how to
Mm-hmm.
connect with people. And that again, that's throwing your hand in there and saying, I'm taking on this new thing. I need support.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we can do that, there are experts out there. And when
Yep.
you have a passion for something and that passion comes across and you go, I need some help with it, that passion will attract people. So when we're chasing something that we really love, and I can see you're passionate about doing this film studio. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have no idea what you're doing, but yeah, let's make it happen. Let's have a crack at it. Let's have a decent crack at it.
Yeah. 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 And the funny thing is I was asked to do this
Yeah, right.
because I was the best person they knew, and I am a good person for this. It turns out, I mean, at least I think so. Enough so that I'm daring enough to go do it. And what we'll get done, I don't know. We'll have a meeting tomorrow. We'll have another meeting. We'll have another meeting, and then slowly we'll assemble what this thing's going to be. Very similar to what we're doing with SpyQ. By the way, I'm doing both of these ventures at the same time. That's crazy. But we don't have a piece of paper that shows it, but we have this master's or this PhD in how to do these kinds of things, take on bigger and more complex challenges, because we have figured out how to master these earlier skills. Even if it's hard for us to explain them all the time, we have these credentials. There's no credential to show anybody like I can do it. You have to just go do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm just thinking about the people who are listening to this podcast, and going back through that steps of how do you build a leader? How do you teach leaders to be leaders? There's probably people watching the podcast and going, oh my God, he's going to produce films. I could never imagine that. I would love to do it. I could never imagine myself getting to that point. How would I do that? But you haven't just gone, I'm sitting on my bum doing nothing. I'm going to be a producer. You've taken really incremental steps. Certainly your history in the military gives you a certain amount of personal confidence. You've now been
Right.
producing the podcast for a while. People are seeing what you're doing. You're getting confidence there. And now you're taking that next incremental step. So people have got to understand that if they are not at the same level as you and they're down here, they can still get up here. They've just got to be prepared to take these steps first to get up there.
Mm.
But again, it goes back to passion. If you've got a real passion to be a film producer, you'll find out what those steps are. Just go and play on a studio for a while. In fact, I've done that much. Okay, now I'm going to reveal. I actually started producing a TV show as well.
Okay.
I went through a divorce and it got ugly, so I didn't follow it through. But I had no idea what I was doing. But I reached out and I got a guy who was filming for National Geographic, and I got a couple of actors on board to give me advice, and we started putting stuff together. I had no idea what I was doing, but I had the right people around me to make it happen.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's right. And you can, a lot of worse kitchens have made worse soups, with that very exact recipe. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it can work out completely fine, and you pursue it and you sort of let the cards fall where they may. But you're right. There's something about the passion part of it and the ability to stick to things. And I'm not a stick to it kind of guy, but if I'm passionate about something, it gets all of my effort and I can direct it. And I know that I can compel things to happen because of that. And even if I hand this project off, which would be ideal, to somebody who actually knows how to run a studio, that would be great. And then I'll sit on the board and help guide and say, this is the vision that we're trying to accomplish, And that for me doesn't seem like that's not me in Hollywood getting an Oscar. That's me just saying, hey, I built a successful business that helps my hometown, by bringing in tax revenue and builds things. And, that for me would be a wonderful and a much more accomplishable goal than this dream of things that if that ever happens, great. I'll go and I'll wear tux and I'll have a great time. But It's hard enough just to try to bring some tax. $1 of tax revenue brought into my town because of this studio actually existing would already be a huge successful venture.
Yeah, absolutely. And that tells me a lot about where your ego sits and where your social responsibility sits as well.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Yeah. So when you look ahead of what you're working on, right? You've got all this stuff. I love that V thing you talked about. That's for everybody watching. When you see Derrick's presentation, he's got this flicking back and forth between these two modalities he was talking about. But who checks you up? Who makes sure that you're where you need to be when you aren't at your best?
Generally, my kids.
Okay.
I've spoken to my kids. My kids and I have a really good relationship, and we talk. And this is the meaningful connections. I talk to my kids and I try to support them and I try to boost them up, and I try, when they're going through challenges, I try to talk to them the right way. And then when I start going through challenges, my kids just go, "Dad, do you remember what you were saying to me last week?" No, what were we talking about? You were telling me how to get over what you're talking about right now. And so my kids really keep me grounded. I can get on stage and have, in Singapore, I had 4,000 people telling me I'm great, but I come back to my kids and they go, "Take the rubbish out, Dad." Right? They keep me where I need to be. But we check in on each other all the time. I've got a couple of really good mates in the speaking industry, mates, male and female. And there's a lady in Queensland, Jo Hassan. She and I just ring up each other randomly. She's got her life and her husband, and I've got my life down here, but we just ring up and go, "What's going on? Tell me about your life." And so got those meaningful connections with the right people. There's not a lot of them. I can tell you right now, I've got a huge number of people that I know, but those people who are meaningful in my life, there's only a few of them.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You've it's not that you don't have room for people, but you've curated a list that allows you to manage it. Yeah. Yeah. How long does that take to curate that list of people?
Changes all the time. It changes depending on what I'm going through. I've got people who have been on that list, and then their life has taken a different direction. They've gone overseas. They've taken a different career path, whatever it might be, and so they have gone out of that really close circle where we're interacting all the time, and somebody else will come into it. So that list is changing all the time. But people like Jo, she's in Queensland. We still ring each other up. I've got a friend who I used to do gymnastics with in my 20s. That's 40 years ago. We only catch up every now and then, but I also know that if I'm having a really hard time, I can give her a phone call and she would be right there for me, and I would be right there for her as well. I did a gig with police and I was talking about the meaningful connections, and I was saying everybody has a group of 3 to 5 people, and there was one guy in the audience who immediately started crying. He couldn't think of anybody in his circle of people who would be a really meaningful connection. And when I sat down with him afterwards, he was actually on the point of suicide, and that's where his life was. So we sat down and we had a really good conversation about realizing that there are more people in his life than maybe he has realized, but he has distanced himself from them rather than putting his hand in the air and saying, "I actually need some help," and allowing people in. So it depends on where your headset is as to where those people are, but generally I would say 99.999% of people would have 3 to 5 people who, if you really needed to, you could ring them at 3 o'clock in the morning and they would be there for you. It sometimes takes a long time to sit down and think about it, depending on where your headset is.
Yeah. How, when you sense that trap, I'm getting distance from people, but I don't like people. There's people like that. how do you fix that? How do you arrest that slide so that you can not end up crying at Derrick's speaking event, and you're more like, I'm building instead of recovering?
So I've got a model for human durability, which is what I talk about. It's about sustaining optimal performance. It starts out with vision, then it goes to knowledge. Point 3 of knowledge is recognize the indicators that tell you that what you're trying to achieve is going well, or what you're trying to achieve is going badly. And it's recognizing the indicators that that slide you've just mentioned about is actually happening.
Okay.
Now, when that slide happens, most people go, this will fix itself. This will be okay. It'll come back naturally, rather than going, sorry, let me start that again. Rather than saying, I can see this slide starting to happen, I need to take action now. Okay. If we take action when we first see it, we can arrest that slide really, really quickly. And it always makes me think of, and I can't remember who it was that said it, talking about being a millionaire and then being bankrupt. And they said, well, you're a millionaire and now you're bankrupt. How did that work? And he said, well, it was slowly at first, and then it was all of a sudden.
Yes.
You see the slide starting to happen. You don't take action, bang, it's all over and done with. So taking action immediately, and that taking action, throwing your hand in the air and saying, and this goes back to another thing that I was watching just recently. It's not about saying to people, how can you be a better friend to me? It's about me saying, how can I be more connected to you? What can I give to you? What can I share? Because when we're putting into the relationship, people appreciate it.
Boy,
yeah,
that's so good. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's just that resonates so well. And oftentimes when you think about something, if you reverse that scope and figure out how to look at it, I'm sort of like the mayor of my high school class. And so when I try to get us together, which I'll try to do here in about a year, we'll start working on a reunion. I remind them, like, it's not about you and who maybe you want to see, but it is about the person who maybe did you wrong in the 8th grade and has been desperate to apologize to you for 40 years. And them being able to say, do you remember that time? And you go, I don't even care. I don't remember. And then you can lift the weight off their back just by being there. Even if you don't have that conversation, they see you and they realize, oh my God, and so, because we all carry things around that don't matter. But that ability to look at this, like you being there in that moment off the couch, you and I got to know each other because I got off the couch and I flew however many thousands of miles, and you did the same. Like, the two dudes farthest away, boop, boop, in the same place. And we got along great, right? But that's because we know to take the opportunity and go, hey, what's the worst that can happen? I'll be down a couple $100 or $1,000 or whatever it's going to be. I can manage that. Let's see what happens. And look at all the great things that happened.
Absolutely. Brilliant people that we met. The unexpected things that happen are sometimes the best. And I don't know if you remember David Harry. He was the London spy. He's never been a spy, but he talks about all the history of London and the spy connections. He is just a fascinating person. And I know it's strange to mention, his name, but he's just a standout. I traveled thousands of miles to be at Spy Q and connect with people there. This guy who takes tours of the London arena and gives you the history of London, he's one of the most fascinating people I've met. And I'll remember that when I go back to London, I will catch up with him again. It's amazing. We go for a purpose, but then if we're open to other experiences, it's amazing what can happen.
Yeah. And let me just put that, do a plug here for the London Spy. And put that in here right now. Bam. That'll be up on the screen for you guys. You can go check that out. Check it out. So no, I didn't, because I wasn't there then, right? But I saw the thread. Everybody was talking about this. And so I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to reach out to him and have him on the show. And that's just on the strength of knowing there is no fear in this. Derrick vouched for him. Gavin said, yeah, that guy's great. Well, then why wouldn't I have him on the show? And so now I've taken my network and I've bolted on this new section. And I've not done that yet, but he'll say yes and he'll come on and we'll have a great chat. And you just plant seeds this way, right? And it's just sort of like what
So let me build up
this. Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me build up the London Spy episode for you.
Yeah.
He started out in life as the photocopier for Deutsche Bank, and he was told he
Okay.
would never get out of the photocopy room. He retired from Deutsche Bank as the vice president of Deutsche Bank, and he retired from being vice president to run these London tours. His whole history is just fascinating. You'll
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
You will love it.
Yeah. I can't wait to do it. Right. But I've trained my ear because of my ridiculous show to hear, oh, that's someone I can get. And so, like, let's say we're talking, you're like, oh, the greatest book I've read in my life is this book, whatever it is, book A with author X. I'm going to go out, I'm going to find author X and bring him on the show and have you sit down in the guest host chair and talk to this, and so I've learned to do that with my show. And so when people like, well, how do you monetize? I'm like, I don't know, but that's worth money right there. Being able to take the London spy and bringing him on and putting us all together is going to be a good thing. And good things come from those things. It's a marvelous thing once you start to look forward. We talked a lot about how do you bring people up and how do you fix things, but the looking forward part is pretty incredible too.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this goes back to throwing your hand in the air and asking for support. People say, oh, you would never get that person on your show.
Right.
That's just too. But sometimes when you reach out, they go, I would love to be on that show.
Oh my gosh.
And sometimes you may not get that absolute dream person, but you might get person 2 or 3 down. And once you've done several at that level, that other person's going, I missed an opportunity, and they contact you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
All the time with that stuff. Like that's constant. Like I'll go get, if not that author, the other author, if not that professor, the other professor. Because the one thing I've learned in life is you just can't borrow no. Like let them tell you no, let them ignore you because you're already in the same spot that you're already at. There's just no risk. It takes 2 minutes to write your own email, be a human, and then send it off. And Derrick, the next time someone says, it's so funny that you ask, we just had a conversation and we'd love to, we were just saying we need to get on more podcasts and you just happened to ask. So I just let those things stack up and be incredible,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Luck is opportunity meeting preparedness.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not write an email? Why not send out a handwritten note to somebody? If I write I don't know how it is in Australia, but here I never get good mail. It's always a bill or an advertisement. To get something from somebody, wait, someone took time to write me a letter?
Yeah. Yes, no mail these days. It's just for bills.
Yeah. Let's. We've got about 10 minutes. What do you want to cover in these last few minutes? Do you want to talk Spy Q? What do you want to get into?
Let's talk Spy Q.
All right, let's do it.
It's a fascinating concept. These 2 MI5. Well, one is definitely MI5. The other one does not talk about what he's done in his history because and the MI5 guy is retired, so he can talk about it. But they continually say to me, if somebody tells you that I'm a spy, they're probably not because they're not allowed to say it. So, Gavin and James, fascinating people. James is a behavioral scientist, and his insight into how to understand people and get the most out of people is absolutely invaluable. And that's certainly part of how they recruit people in foreign countries to betray their own government for your government, but for their benefit. And it is all about, and this is going back to the conversation we're having before, how can I be of benefit to you? What can I give? When you understand those things, you can get people to do amazing things like betray their own government. And I'd like to say betray for good purpose.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of words that have negative, rightfully so, negative connotations in the spy world. Betray, manipulate, exploit. But also when I'm talking to a farmer or whoever, it's going to be a general, I'm not trying to exploit them for my gains. I'm trying to, and this is how I approach it. Not everybody approaches it this way, but I'm trying to exploit the opportunity that they have and I have. And if I can help improve their condition, then that's what I want to do. Is I want to improve their condition. Does that mean that they have to spy and do things? Probably not. But if we can do small things that are just commonly available and improve the area, improve his mission, improve whatever, then they're going to keep coming back to me, and we can do more complicated, more dangerous things, and you can just build on that. And it's a reliable path, but it does have the words betray, exploit,
manipulate,
terminate.
Absolutely.
Terminate is one of the words we use all the time. These are very hard and scary words, but it's also a hard and scary game.
Yeah. I'm just going to go off on a little tangent and play with what we're talking about here. Most people, when they talk about I want to get something from them, but I want to give them something, they talk about win-win for everybody. And most people look at win-win. Everything's got to be even. If they win, then I've got to win. But what I like to point out to people is they may get this absolutely massive win, but if you get exactly what you need, you're both winners. But you've got to understand it doesn't have to be absolutely equal. They may get a very little thing, but it's exactly what they want, and you're going to get this massive win out of it. So long as everybody is happy with the outcome, it doesn't have to be exactly equal. We can give away a heap as long as we get exactly what we want as well. So it's understanding that human side again, of keeping people happy and not having to be the biggest winner ourselves. It goes back to your social conscience.
Yeah, and I don't need to win at all. In my case, I'm trying to accomplish the commander's goals, which can be a lot of things. And so if I can help you, and you go first, like, what do you need? And I would say this all the time, Derek, to the people I would talk to. What's the smallest thing that we could do today? Like, that should have already been done. And, when they're like, electricity, and I'm like, no, that's giant. Think small. Like today, right now, you and me, or five other people, what can we do? And there's always something. You know what? There is something. Yeah. And then they'll say it, and then I help them accomplish that. It's an orchestrated thing, but I'll have them go to their government, and the government will be like, and they'll look at meanwhile, this farmer standing there the whole time, the government will look up my commander and be like, you will do the following. And then he's like, yes, sir, I will. Then we do the thing, whatever it is, flatten the road, move the concrete, put up concrete, whatever it's going to be. And then they go, I'll be damned. And so I can go back to that guy and be like, hey, remember me? Like, yeah, you're that guy that got that thing done. And I'm like, yeah, what's next? And they're like, you know what? I was thinking about that. My buddy Ray has a thing. And now I'm connected, but he's connecting me inside of his network to the next guy, to the next guy. And I become more and more relevant in the battlefield because all I do is help people. And then I've invested all my time into this network. They start saying, hey, Pete, by the way, don't go to the stadium tomorrow. Bad day for stadium time. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then that information goes in too. And then when the thing happens, you're like, oh, look at that. We're starting to find danger as well as opportunity, because if I'm not looking for the danger, it'll show up. It'll come to me because I've become important to people.
Yeah. And you've become a trusted confidant.
Right.
You have shown your value, and they can rely on you. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's so important for leadership these days. Everybody's talking about trust, a trusted leader. But that's the exact sample you've just given. Yeah.
When you get shot like you did over and over again, just so many times, how do you trust the system that you're not going to have that horrible thing happen to you again? Like, I know you can put the fear aside, but there is a trust element. I have my leg redone. I have to learn to trust my leg. I have to learn to listen to my leg, so I can understand, like, oh, it's actually not as strong as I thought, right? I'm learning this now as I train jujitsu and everything else. But that's trust. There's trust in this. I have to trust my leg. You have to trust your team and all those kind of things. How do you reform that trust, or did you even lose it?
Never lost it.
Okay.
And for the audience, I was shot 14 times with a high-powered rifle, and then lying on the ground for 3 hours before they could get in to rescue me. For the 3 hours that I was lying on the ground, the one thing that I knew I could rely upon was my mates would be there as soon as they safely could. And when they did come in, they actually risked their lives. The shooter was just shooting continuously. They risked their lives to come in and get me. And then when I first got to the ambos, the ambulance officers and the doctor, they stood for 10 minutes in direct line of fire, treating me, stabilizing me, one of my mates from work walked up to the doctor and said, "Don't worry about the bullets. I've got a flak vest on. I'm going to stand between you and the bullets. I'm going to look after you. I'll be all right."
Wow.
And so when you get those examples of your mates, your team putting their lives on the line, and that's, special forces type stuff, putting their lives on the line in the corporate arena, it's going out of their way to make sure you are looked after. If things are going wrong for you, they are staying back with you to help you. They are helping you to figure out the wording, whatever it might be. But when I know my mates were doing that, I was able to lie on the ground for 3 hours, wholly solely believing they will be there as soon as they possibly could. And that gave me the sense of optimism to keep on fighting personally. And going back into that environment, I had to make some really careful assessments of my risk tolerance. Had it changed? And if I didn't feel comfortable in that environment, I would have felt comfortable enough to go, "Do you know something? I've experienced it once. Don't want to do that again. I'm going to go and find something else to do." But I loved it. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved that job. I was a risk manager beforehand. I took a look at the risks again, and I like to make a distinction. I do a lot of risky things. I'm not a risk taker. I'm a risk
Mhm.
manager. And so I had a look at those risks again. They hadn't changed. The environment was still there where people were supporting each other and we trusted each other. And so it was comfortable for me to go back in. The other thing that I needed to consider was what was going to be the impact on my family. Were they going to be comfortable? And my family was the number one thing for me. If my family couldn't handle it, I would have found a different passion. No two ways about it.
Right.
But they were willing to support me. So it wasn't about bravery as much as I can see how people can say that. It was more about risk tolerance.
Yeah. And what about your mates towards you and trusting you? Again, you get shot 14 times. You got all this damage and recovery and everything else. How do you prove up to them that you're still the guy?
Yeah, there's a bit of a funny story within that, as much as it's a serious story as well. So when I went back, for anybody out there who's played paintball in special forces and in police in special operations, we play paintball with high-tech paintball. It's
Mm.
faster, it's more accurate, it hurts more. And so we went back into that environment to see how I would respond to that, because we are using real weapons with a different barrel to take the simunition, the simulated ammunition. And so I was facing real weapons, and I didn't balk. So once I got through training and everybody was comfortable with me going through training, I was then able to go into the field again. And
Hmm.
this had already been passed by psychiatrists, that I had the mental capacity and the psychological capacity to do this. I went back into the field, but I didn't go back directly into the field. And this goes back to that incremental steps again. I went into the outer cordon, right? And once everybody was comfortable and I was comfortable with being in the outer cordon, I then went to the inner cordon. I then went to the arrest team, and the arrest team is waiting for the entry team to come back in to bring the offender out, and then we control them. And then I went to the entry team. So everything
Mm.
was stepped and everything was staged. Um, and I know that I was being assessed. I know that everybody was absolutely eyes on me to see whether I was
Right.
going to falter. But I was comfortable with that because that's what I would do.
Yeah.
That's not a
Yeah.
judgment of me. That's something I would expect them to do. It would be
Yeah.
foolhardy. It would be, they would not be doing their due diligence if they didn't make those assessments. So I was
Sure.
comfortable with that. But I was judging
Yeah.
myself as well. The funny part comes that when we're in training, we play offender sometimes, we play the good guys so that we see both sides. And one of my mates came up to me one time. They've gone, "Hey, Derrick, you're going to be the offender today, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I am." He said, "You reckon you got shot a lot at Newry? We're going to shoot the shit out of you today,"
They
just
are.
to see how, you know, just to be that lighthearted. So he was obviously comfortable that I was comfortable. But, that's the sort of dark humor we have.
Of course, yeah. And you brought up a really powerful point. It comes from like the mix of our worlds, that trust, right? Trust isn't just, oh, sure, we're going to give Derek a shot. Like, no, you have to perform. This is high speed professional work. And so you do have to withstand the gauntlet. We all do. We all have to go through what we would call murder board over here. Like, Pete, you're going to go out and operate with us and do collections. Well, you're going to have to stand in front of us, and we're going to have to shoot you with our mouth and words and to understand.
Yeah.
And you have to. You have to, because there's too much on the line. And when you exchange high risk trust, it's based on performance. You don't just, for the most part, you don't just start at high risk trust. Someone new comes to the team, you have to prove up. You have to do these things. But then the trust is professional and it's easily exchanged. We know Pete, he's above the standard. We're not worried about him. He'll be prepared. And they know that I'll hold my end of the bargain because I'm a pro. And I know that if I'm out collecting and there's an E5 attached to the back of me pointing the other way, I don't focus any of my attention on security. That's his job. And that's what he's there for, right? And so I know I just let it go. And that probably sounds terrifying to people. And it's not just me, it's my interpreter too. And so we're both working, and that person's sole purpose is to make sure that we know what's going on if it's dangerous. And otherwise, he just trusts us to be valuable in that moment. And we are, and he is. And it all goes together. But that high risk trust exchange, it's not something that people commonly see.
No. And you say it sounds scary to people, but that is the process. I mean, you've got to be able to focus on your job and have a trust that everyone in your team is doing their job. And this goes back to the leader who's a micromanager that can't let anything go. I've got to be on doing everything. If you're trying to do everything, you don't do anything well.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to do your job well, let them do their job well, and have that absolute trust they're going to be doing what they're doing.
I'm going to put the link up one more time here for Derrick's website. It's also in the comments. It's also in the remarks for the show. If you guys have any questions, definitely go check out Derrick. He's a fantastic speaker, and I think you guys will get a lot of value out of that. Derrick, anything in closing other than me saying thank you for you to coming on the show and hanging out with me?
Mate, I'm just looking forward to you running your SpyQ event over there in the US or Canada or wherever it's going to be, because I'm going to be number one ticket. I'm going to purchase that first ticket. I want to get over to your show.
I was hoping to put you in a hostage room and shoot the shit out of you.
Yeah, let's play that game too. But remember, I fire back.
Yeah, no, I expect you to. All right, everybody, I'll see you all tomorrow. I got at least one, possibly two shows tomorrow, and I'll be on the road the rest of the week doing stuff. So thank you all for watching. Derrick, hang in there one sec. I'll say goodbye to you. Everybody else, I'll see you tomorrow.